Can you choose joy? We all have joy inside of us, but sometimes it just gets buried underneath the layers and often more layers of the struggles and challenges, failures and heartaches, irritations and annoyances of life. We want joy and happiness and contentment. I'd hazard a guess that not very many of us would be like, you know what? I just want to be miserable. I want to hate my life. I want to hate my situation. I want to feel frustrated that I'm not making any progress. I want to feel sad and I want to feel alone. I want to feel hopeless and directionless. Maybe I'm delusional in my rose colored glasses, but I think that most all of us would rather choose joy. I think what so many of us don't realize is that we actually do get a choice. And sometimes, well, honestly, probably oftentimes, we really do choose the dark side. Even if at the same time we're thinking, why can't things just be good? Or why can't I just be happy? But what if you chose the happy, chose the joy? Choosing joy does not mean that the sad or negative or angry or frustrating, it doesn't mean that they don't exist. It simply means that despite those, we are choosing the joy. Oh, but Jen, isn't that toxic positivity? No, it is not. But it sure sounds like it. Well, it may sound like it, but it's not. Toxic positivity is ignoring the negative emotions, pretending they don't exist. Like, la di da, life is great, all is perfect, things couldn't be any more freaking amazing. What I want you to do is recognize the whole spectrum of your emotions. And yes, even deal with those icky ones. But recognizing your emotions also means acknowledging the joy that's in there too, and then simply choosing it. A friend showed me the most amazing journal the other day. It was called a grievance journal. Y'all, it's a burn book, no lie. How much do we need one of those someday? Well, because we are at the very beginning of the witchy month, and I know with my healing stones and my lion's breath and my chakra alignment and my overall woo woo ness, and at the start of our ZenTober journey, we absolutely need to start by ridding ourselves of the ick. We cannot pour from an empty cup. But you know what? We can't fill up a dirty one either. So let's start this month off. Working is hard. Being a partner or a daughter, a sister, a friend, it is all so damn hard. And life is frustrating. I mean, we talk and no one listens. No one notices all of the bazillion things that we do every freaking day. But then one time, someone else has to do like one thing and they deserve a damn medal. Yes, you will be recognized at the awards ceremony. That's what I always tell my group. Or, God forbid, after all of the quote unquote lost items that you found, or the random ass questions that you've been the one to know the answer to, or the reminders that you have given, or the tasks that you have done when others have forgotten. God forbid you lose something, or you forget something, or gasp, maybe even you make a mistake. Well, heaven help us, because there is not a bigger travesty around. But when you are right, which let's be honest, is like 99.9% of the time, I mean, it's either A, that's unnoticed, or B, you get, well, you always have to be right. I remember on an old episode of Modern Family when Claire was like, no, I'd love to be wrong, but I just don't live with the right people for that. Amen. I feel that. And you're managing to keep that ship on course, despite the fact that you have pirates aboard your ship who are looting you for all of your money and your food and your time and your energy and your patience. And you have teenagers. And God, it was so easy when the biggest issue was trying to keep them corralled or getting them potty trained or keeping them entertained. Or, yes, I was so tired, but trying to get them to sleep through the night. Absolutely no shade to parents of young kids at all. But oh my God, don't y'all wish it was that easy now? The issues now are just so big. The worries, they're really significant. And then there's that goddamn ticking clock that I constantly hear in the back of my head every second. It's like if you're watching a football game or a basketball game or something, and you see your favorite team who's trying to come back from behind, and you have one eye on the game clock at every second. You are constantly aware that time is running out and we have no timeouts left. And there are always other people around the house. They're either going out with friends or girlfriends, or these other people are around the house or on Snapchat or on FaceTime. But I just want my little group back just for a little tiny while. I'm not asking for long. And don't get me wrong. I love that my kids are happy and I adore their friends. But I sometimes want to be selfish and I want to keep them to myself because the clock is ticking. And that's just at home. Don't even get me started on all of the other areas of life. I think you're starting to get the idea. Sometimes you've just got to get it out. Toxic positivity doesn't recognize that those more difficult emotions, like those, they don't recognize that those difficult emotions even exist. But you know what? They do. I am sad. I am frustrated. I get angry. I get disappointed. I get annoyed. And I know that you do too. But there is always joy in there too. And I don't want to waste my energy on those icky feelings. So I choose joy instead. Usually, not always, but usually. Sometimes you do need to cleanse. Clean that cup before you fill it up so you can pour from it, or whatever that convoluted metaphor was that I have built today. Yes, we said that you can't pour from an empty cup. So we're refilling it up with Zen and with peace. But oh, wait, yuck, we can't fill a dirty cup. So we first need to clean it. Convoluted, yes, but it's actually a good expansion of that metaphor. I like it. So as we begin this month of Zen, let's cleanse out the grievances. Rid yourself of the ick. Go ahead, turn your journal into a burn book. Just for today. What or who is just bugging the shit out of you? What is weighing on your mind and on your heart? What is making you feel angry or hurt or sad or frustrated? Acknowledge it. Take control over it and start the process of choosing joy. Hey guys, it's Jen. Happy ZenTober. Cute, right? I love it. If you've been listening to the show for a minute, you know that fall is my jam. Thanksgiving is my holiday. I mean, it's my favorite holiday, but it's also the one that I claim as mine. I host our holiday extravaganza, like a 5-day long Thanksgiving festival. Each year we get bigger and bigger. It's become a collective of family and friends, family friends, the kids' friends. Even sometimes we have stragglers who we pick up who don't have other holiday plans. In the past, we've had TAG's employees. Sometimes we've even had some of my students who didn't have somewhere to go home over the holiday. The kids' friends. I have already picked up 27 reservations for the weekend festivities, and we'll probably pick up another handful or two between now and then. And I do love the weeks of thought and prep that go into it. And then, of course, literally taking care of everyone for days. And then the Christmas chaos begins. So, yeah, I totally need ZenTober to put me in the right frame of mind, to get my heart and my soul peaceful and ready 100%. And even if your holidays are a little bit chiller, although I would hazard a guess that everyone's are chaotic in their own right, but we all need this. We all could use a clean slate. We could all use to start from a place of inner peace. Well, I really try to always be positive. I like to come at things from a place of positivity. But we started the show by airing our grievances. So we're going to take the same approach with our conversation today. I told you that ZenTober was going to be about internal and family peace. So we cannot neglect the family component. I mean, duh, that's why we're here, right? And yes, I am going to keep saying ZenTober. Please don't hate me for it. I mean, yes, if you really hate it, maybe like send me an email or slip me a DM on the DL, please. But please don't scream it from the rooftops or like write a review. Please don't post on my socials. Stop trying to make ZenTober happen. That's like my second Mean Girls reference today. Oh my God, did I tell you this before? I don't think I did. Okay, so I was waiting to show my daughter Mean Girls. Like I was waiting for this perfect moment. Like it would be this amazing, awesome mother-daughter thing. Well, one day she just slipped into conversation. She watched it without me. Can you believe it? I was heartbroken. I mean, we still watched Clueless with, her first time watching it, but I didn't get Mean Girls. I mean, I've got to go see this silly Taylor Swift concert movie, and I don't get Mean Girls. How is that fair? I mean, I'm excited to see the concert movie thing. I'm not a Swiftie, but I'm also not a Swiftie. Like I'm kind of in the middle. I kind of really don't have a preference here or there. Is that allowed? I don't know. But I'm definitely not a fan of what I've heard that people are going to be like getting dressed like they did for the concert and like standing and dancing and singing in the movie like it was a concert. I don't want to do that. I want to recline in silence. That's the fun of a movie. Anyway, I have digressed. Anyway, my era's movie outfit is a discussion for a later day. So back to our conversation today. Yes, because we began with our airing our grievances, I guess you could say that I will continue by airing some grievances about what parents are doing wrong communication wise with their teens. Okay. I often give you things you should be doing when you are communicating with your teens, but we're going to flip the script today. We're going to have a conversation about the biggest mistakes that parents make when they're communicating with their teens. The top 10 mistakes. We all make mistakes. We know that we should do better and we should be better. So, just like cleansing our grievances, let's get rid of these mistakes so that we can have a fresh start for that family peace that we all want. Because we know that effective communication plays a huge role in building those strong relationships with our teenagers. We so often don't even realize that we are even making communication mistakes that are instead hurting these relationships. Mistakes that cause misunderstanding or mistrust, or really just make us feel disconnected from our teens. So let's talk through these mistakes and kind of get into some strategies that we can do to avoid them in the first place. So, first, we talked about this back in the It's Not About the Socks episode, which I will link in the show notes so that you can go back and have yourself a listen. First is a lack of active listening. One of the most common mistakes that parents make is not actively listening to their teenagers. To be honest, I have actually been giving this one a lot of thought lately. Like over the summer, I think I've mentioned that with my three kids, all so close in age, they have a ton of friend overlap. And so, because of this, and of course, because of my award winning hospitality too, But because of this, we are like the teen headquarters at our house. And specifically, because both of my boys play football, most of the kids at the house are football players. They come over after practice and after their games. And I have noticed how much that they pick up on things. Like they're really critical thinkers in ways that I don't think that as adults we sometimes give them credit for. Like I've so often listened to them talking about why something went the way that it did, or what would work so much better, or who would be better at this position, or a zillion other things. And it's not like they're saying, I could have done better if coach had put me in instead. No, it's like they're super logical and realistic about it. It's like when they were little and the kids would tell me, I'm third fastest in the class. Like they were always well aware of their ranking. They weren't embellishing. They knew who they were faster than or better than, or who was faster than them or better than them. They were very astute about it. It's the same with teens and the same with the boys in this situation. Like they know that they're maybe not the best or the one who would perform the best or should have been doing something, but they do know their teammates super well. And in a lot of ways, better than the coaches do. And I've so often thought that I wonder how much better a team could be if the coaches could be a fly on the wall for those conversations. Well, and actually were a fly on the wall and actually listened to what other people thought. That's the active listening part. But I've thought about, and I wonder what would happen if they could just hear what the boys think, like I do when I'm just kind of listening from the background. They pick up on so much. And I'm sure that most coaches probably don't ever even ask, what do you think about that? And listen. Or teachers. I know when I teach undergrad in the classroom, I would always give like a mid semester, give me some feedback question. Like, I want to make this a great experience for you. I want you to learn and to take the most out of this class. What's working and what isn't from your perspective. As parents, we need to do the same. And one of the biggest mistakes we make is when they do talk, we don't actively listen. We use the terms hearing and listening interchangeably, but they're actually quite different. Hearing is just the physiological processing of the sounds. Listening, though, listening means paying attention to and hearing it with thoughtful attention and giving it consideration. There's even a difference between active and passive listening. Passive listening isn't trying to contribute to the conversation. It's really not much more than hearing. Active listening, though, active listening makes you engage. It's a way of listening and responding to the other person that improves your understanding. This is the way you want to listen if you're trying to understand the other person or if you're looking for a solution. If you're active, you're curious. You're trying to figure out what it actually is going on. You want to help. I saw a post on Facebook in a group this morning from a mom complaining about her son being miserable on a family trip. First, I, of course, suggested my fabulous Traveling with Teens episode, which, if you haven't already listened to it, I will also share the link in the notes. But what caught my attention was that she posted a picture of the pool area, and her words were, quote, to show you the ridiculousness of his misery. And that's what I mean here. Because to her, she sees this beautiful pool area on probably quite a lovely vacation that she planned and was probably a good expense. And she doesn't understand why he isn't enjoying it and why he isn't happy. But to him, maybe something else is what's going on. Maybe it's the Snapchat social thing. Like perhaps he can't use his phone and knows that the social plague of being away from Snapchat for a few days can cause in the high school world. Or maybe there are events at school or with his friends that he's missing out on, or that he's concerned that when he goes back, he won't have friends or a girlfriend anymore because we all know how easily teens move on. Or maybe it's one of a million other things that us moms, we don't see from our perspective, but we could see if we listened. Just like we talked about in the socks episode when I got upset about my old lady nails. It wasn't about the nails, it was about what they represented. And just like I was so appreciative of my friend for actively listening to me, our teens are most responsive and appreciate when we actively listen to them. Because really, they oftentimes don't even understand that what they're upset about or sad about or angry about, they often don't realize it's actually about something else entirely. And if you can listen to them and realize what the actual issue is, your relationship with them will be much better. So, yes, I'm telling you, don't make the mistake of being a bad listener. Cleanse that ick, cleanse it from your relationship. Now, how do you do that? Well, be curious. You need to have a genuine interest in understanding them and a true desire to understand what is actually going on. You need to be more interested in listening to actually hear what they are saying rather than just listening to formulate your response or your comeback. Listen to understand, not just to respond. Ask them good questions and make sure that you ask open-ended questions. Because if you ask a yes or no question, guess what? You're going to get a yes or no answer. Focus on questions that will get them to elaborate. Ask for more information and for more clarification. Let them fill in their own blanks and recognize what they need. Do they need to vent? Do they need advice? Are they looking for an ear or are they looking for a fix? If nothing else in our parent-teen relationships, if we can improve our active listening skills and actually listen to our kids, we can create an environment where they feel heard and they feel understood. Second, don't jump to conclusions or assume. Parents often make the mistake of assuming that they know what their teens are thinking or feeling without seeking clarification, and we just jump to conclusions. This can totally lead to miscommunication and resentment. And instead, parents should approach conversations with an open mind. We need to ask those open ended questions that we just said so we can encourage our teens to express themselves fully. We need to take our time to understand what they're saying and to process what they mean. Ease into it. If you try to move too quickly, you might miss important information. And that can set us up for an argument. So don't just assume anything. Don't make assumptions about what they are thinking or what they are feeling. And instead, if you've been an active listener, like we said, and if you've asked good questions, like we suggested, you will have the actual answers. And you won't need to fill in the blanks with what you might falsely think might be the answer. So get rid of it. Don't do it. Don't assume. Third, don't overreact or be judgmental. I know that your teens and their friends too, because we need to be mindful of all of them for this one, but they all can do and say and wear things that can be shocking, like shocking, or that you really want to judge, or it's bad, or it's disappointing, and you feel yourself overreacting. This is why we always practice the pause. Sometimes they aren't thinking, and sometimes they're just testing you, but they are always paying attention to how you respond. And that response, whether it's good or whether it's bad, that response will then impact how likely they are to be open and honest with you in the future. So always be mindful of that. We've said since the first time we discussed the process of communication that all of our interactions are a response to a previous interaction and then impact our future interactions. And our overreactions or our judgments will hurt our relationships, not just now, but in the future too. Our teens need a safe space to express themselves without fear of criticism. And we need to really try to respond calmly and to offer support and to offer guidance rather than our judgment. Fourth, don't ignore their nonverbal cues. Okay, so we communicate using both verbal and nonverbal cues. Verbals are obviously the words, and nonverbals are the messages that are sent without using words. So, like our gestures, or our eye contact, or our use of time, or our use of touch, or our use of space, or how close we stand to them, or putting our hand on their shoulder, or hugs, or whatever. Nonverbals are at least as important as the verbal behaviors, and some might even argue that nonverbals stimulate more meaning than verbals in a communication situation. Parents oftentimes overlook their teens' nonverbal cues, such as like their body language or their facial expressions. Okay. These cues, though, can reveal their actual underlying emotions that the words that they're saying might not capture. And if we ignore the nonverbals, we miss out on so much because it's in these nonverbals that we can see clues that detect why their attitudes or their traits or their lies or deception, why these things or if these things are occurring. Nonverbals oftentimes reveal the information that our kids wouldn't just volunteer up to us. So we cannot afford to make the mistake of ignoring the nonverbals. If she's giving you the body language that something is wrong, maybe yes, maybe she says it's fine, but her tone says otherwise. Or maybe he's sticking around close by while you're doing something. Does it mean maybe that he's looking to talk? Is he heading out to school early? Is she focusing more on her clothes than normal? Believe it or not, those are all nonverbal messages that our teens are sending us. We need to pay attention to these cues and use them as a basis for initiating some meaningful conversations with them. If I know that we all have all of the answers. We are really smart, and we've established that we don't live with the right people to ever be wrong. But parents are still constantly making the mistake of offering unsolicited advice. Just don't. Yes, we may have valuable insights from our way too many years, right? Our many years of experience. We know things. Why won't you just listen to me, right? However, offering unsolicited advice can be and usually is quite counterproductive. Our teens don't see unsolicited advice as helpful, they see it as a criticism or as interfering. Wait for them to ask for advice before just offering it up. Not only will they be more receptive of it when you do give it, but it also lets them feel empowered and in control of their decisions. Sixth, don't use negative language. See, do not. All right. Do not. Haha, right? The irony, right? Using negative language to tell you not to use negative language, but don't. Honestly, the whole vibe on this entire episode is weird to me because, I like to phrase things positively. And here I am instead telling you what not to do. If you're really paying attention, you'll probably even notice that I keep slipping into telling you what to do rather than what not to do. I'm sorry, I can't help it. Negative language creates a hostile environment, and it can really impact our effective communication. We need to avoid using any language that is accusatory of them or demeaning to them. And instead, we need to choose positive and constructive wording that encourages open communication. We talked about this in the La Vie est Belle episode on negativity. I'll link that episode in the notes too, so you can go back and have a listen. We talked about criticism versus feedback and talking positively to them versus talking negatively to them. Constructive criticism, remember, focuses on what we don't want, and feedback focuses on what we do want. If you don't like how you hear them talking to you or to a friend or a sibling, constructive criticism is more, don't talk like that. You're being so mean, or it sounds trashy, or you're being disrespectful. But feedback is more, your brother would probably be more willing to take you places with him if you were nicer to him. Or you are such a sweet girl. I wish you talked better to me because I really try to do what I can do to help you. Or, I know that you would never say something hurtful about someone. Do you realize that it's coming across that way? Criticism is focused on weaknesses and on the past. It frames the commentary as they are the problem. It makes it seem like they screwed up. You're angry or you're disappointed. You should have studied harder. Your grades this semester are a problem. Constructive feedback focuses on the future and builds up strengths. It says that we can make things better. Now that you see what the tests are like for the next one, you're going to need to study a lot more. Or I totally get that you need time for your friends, but I can help you to get your grades to where they need to be. Criticism deflates people, feedback inspires them. So, if we want to inspire them, instead of making it seem like they've totally messed up, they're always wrong, they're doing bad, there's nothing that they can do to make it better, we need to use positivity and to use feedback instead to support them and help to create a nurturing environment. Seventh, I notice that adults are oftentimes interrupting or talking over teens. Don't do that. The negativity right now, I just can't. But, anyways, don't do that. Don't interrupt them. Don't talk over them. It kind of even goes back to the active listening and then not jumping to conclusions or assuming that we know best, right? We can fix it. We're the adult. We know things. Why won't you just listen to me, right? Well, maybe we should listen to them more instead. Because just like when people do it to us, right? Think mansplaining. I guess we're parent-splaining. But interrupting or talking over our teens makes them feel unheard and disregarded. And instead, we should take the pause, right? Again, remember that one? Take the pause and practice patience and allow your teens to finish expressing themselves before you respond. This will demonstrate our respect for them and our respect for their thoughts and their experiences, and it will create a balance or a sense of equality in the conversation. And kind of building on this one, number 8. When we do talk, don't lecture. Focus on creating a dialogue with them, not in lecturing them. Parents often fall into the trap of lecturing their teens rather than engaging in a meaningful dialogue. Lectures, though, can be overwhelming and are ineffective in conveying messages. I know that's ironic considering that I've spent my entire life lecturing, right? But in interpersonal relationships, we need to instead aim for creating a dialogue, like a conversation, like we have with other people. We wouldn't. I guess for the most part, we wouldn't. Although I do know some people who do. And, I've spent my whole career doing this. But still, in most conversations, most of us, we wouldn't just stand there and lecture another adult, right? So why do we think it will work with our kinda adultish kids? If we encourage our teens to share their thoughts and their opinions, guess what? They will actively participate in the conversation. Number 9, don't dismiss or invalidate their feelings. Yes, maybe it's super silly. Maybe they're even wrong. Maybe you don't understand. But that doesn't mean that there isn't something important there. And they are allowed to feel however they feel. You are not there to judge their feelings. When just because we don't understand it doesn't lessen their feelings. So instead, we need to show them empathy and understanding, even if we may not fully agree with or understand their perspective. And number 10, don't neglect giving them emotional support. This can be a hard one, especially if you weren't raised in a, hey, it's okay to have emotions or emotions are good type of home, which, at the risk of stereotyping, many of us Gen X parents didn't exactly have that. And especially many of our husbands, right? Whether it's allowing them to feel their anger or sadness or frustrations or their guilt. But wait, guilt is definitely an emotion, at least that us Catholics have always been allowed and encouraged to feel, right? But yes, we want them to feel happy. But do you always feel happy? Of course not. So there's no way that they will, especially with their hormones and their brain development. Teens have such a range of emotions, and we need to provide emotional support to them during their difficult times. If we are cold or detached or just neglect to give them emotional support, it makes them feel isolated and it makes effective communication difficult, if not impossible. We need to create a safe and non judgmental environment for them that allows them to openly express their emotions. Let them feel all of the feels. It's okay, even the ick. I mean, seriously, I know that ranting that little bit a bit earlier, that airing of my grievances, it absolutely made me feel better already. Sometimes we really just need to be angry or sad or disappointed or jealous or worried. Get it out. Then from there, we're all much more positioned to choose that joy. We cannot fill from an empty cup, and we do not want to fill a dirty cup. So let's start ZenTober out with a good cleanse of those grievances so that we can all choose the joy. Thank you so much for listening. Please remember to follow the show so that you don't miss out on any new content. And please share it with your friends who might also benefit from or enjoy the show, because that is how we will grow this wonderful community. Reach out to me on socials, on Instagram and TikTok at Reframing Me. On Facebook, it's Reframing Me. And join the Facebook group Reframing Me, the podcast community. Until next time, be well, communicate, and get that ick out so that we can fill you back up with Zen.